welcome. You are watching on Wild Card Network. We're here with the head coach of the varsity team, Coach Phillip Rivers. How you doing, Coach?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. So, we just had a big game against Jackson this past week. Had an upset. Number 2 going to play number 1 at number 1. Kind of, talk about your preparation for the game and kind of, your mindset going into the game.
Yeah, we had a great week of prep, as you know, and it was a great week of practice. And I think the belief, there's a lot to be said about confidence and belief. And you guys believed we were going to go up there to win and could win the game. And then we also talked a lot about not missing the moment of number 2 going to play number 1 and that opportunity at their place against that team with those type of players and a great atmosphere. And I think we didn't miss it. You guys loved it, took advantage of the opportunity. And then I was just super happy for you guys and our team, and excited for how well you played and how hard you fought. And coming away with that win was certainly one we'll always remember.
Yes, sir. And, we always talk about turnover margin, how big of a deal it is. At one point early in the game, we were up 28-7. And, after some defense stops and some turnovers and offense scoring, talk about how big of a deal that turnover margin really is and how it affects the game.
Yeah, it was huge because, I've had a couple people say, man, how'd y'all stop Crowell? And I go, I don't know that we stopped him. The man went for 300-something yards, and he's the best back in the nation. But we stopped him enough, and going back to the turnover margin, he put it on the ground once when we were able to he put it on the ground twice, but one he lost. And then we had 2 interceptions. And then I think we made him punt 3 more times. So, that's 6 stops. That's huge, and especially the way our offense was playing. We hit a little lull in the second, third quarter. But the two most critical things, besides the execution offensively was as good as it's been. It's the best game we've had since we've been here in terms of execution. But the 2 main reasons we won the game, besides that, the obvious, and us making plays, to me, was the turnover margin, right, 3-0, and the kicking game. The kicking game was huge. We dominated the kicking game. Pat and George were unbelievable. We covered kicks. We made all our extra points. We kicked it out of the end zone. We sky kicked it. We really dominated the kicking game, field position, and the turnovers. You do that, we're good enough in the other phases to win the game. When you win the turnover margin and dominate the kicking game with our offense and defense, we're gonna have a great chance to win.
Sir. And we saw a stat kind of go around the team and everything. That's the most points scored on Jackson since 1923. And with the offense performing at such a high level right now and everything, how do you kind of keep that momentum going and kind of keeping them not getting complacent as the season goes along?
Yeah, well, I think every game, as we know, and we've been through enough games together now, all of us. But speaking offensively, to where we know it's not always going to go like that, right? We're not going to always just hit everything. It seemed like everything came up just how we wanted. That's just not realistic. But I think we've been together long enough to know we don't panic when we hit a lull. We hit a lull the other night in the third quarter. Nobody went crazy. We just said, shoot, punt it, George. And he did. He had a 48-yard average and no returns. And then we just hung with it, knowing it'll come back around. So the biggest thing is if we don't turn the ball over, if we do have a couple where we have to punt, we now can punt it with some efficiency and stay with it. So I think we know moving forward, we got some. It's not going to be 49 points every week. It has been, but it's not going to be 49 points every week. This Mobile Christian defense is tough. They had Jackson held to 13 into the third quarter. So we know the back half of our schedule we said was going to be tougher. It's going to continue to be, and we got to be on it every week because as soon as you get to the top, everybody wants to knock you off. And so we're going to have to regroup and nuke Chappie right every week and be ready to go and bring our best.
Yeah, Coach, I want to bring up some stats about last week. As you can see, Gunner I believe he was 25 of 37 with 300 yards. There's a 67 completion percentage, and he had 5 touchdowns. Can you kind of speak on the passing game? The receivers as a whole as well, with Brody having 5 receptions for 63 yards, and then Braden Walton really shining that game with 9 receptions, 129 yards and 2 touchdowns, as well as Braden Smith coming up big in those clutch moments with 4 receptions for 74 yards and 2 touchdowns. Can you kind of talk about the passing game? Jackson.
Yeah, it was a heck of a night. Obviously, Gunner played well. It was probably his best game as a high school player. Just his poise and efficiency, as you mentioned, he threw it away when he needed to throw it away, and then he was accurate on all the throws. And then you mentioned the guys catching it. There's always somebody. There's never been a pass completed that somebody wasn't on the other end catching it. Of course, it can tip up and come back to yourself, but. The receivers did a great job of, again, running their routes, executing, and then making contested catches. and then you always go back to the offensive line. Somebody's protecting to get all those balls thrown, and get Noah had 130 yards rushing as well. So it was a very balanced attack. Our best offensive game probably since we've been together. And it was fun to see it. I feel like we talked about it, and the guys kind of knew all week we were going to need Braden and both Braden and B to step up big in the game. And Tucker had his share of big time plays in the game. There weren't the big 60-yarders, but some huge catches for first downs that kept drives alive. So everybody contributed. You look at those 4 wideouts contributing, and then Noah in the backfield, and then Nigel did his thing, kind of as the the dirty man, cleaning it up there in the run game and stuff. It was just a heck of a performance by the collective group. It was fun to see all those guys play well.
What has our preparation been like this week for Millville Christian?
Well, I think it's been one of those deals where we've been team of the week, players of the week, all this stuff this week, and deservingly so. I mean, that's fine. You win like we did, you're going to get recognized. And so I want our guys to enjoy that. We don't want to, slough that off to the side, but at the same time, we got to make sure we stay focused on the task at hand, because as quickly as you can become number one, you can get your butt knocked off the very next week. So I think our guys know what Mobile Christian's all about. We've beaten them one time in school history. Last year, we went to their place and beat them 45-35 in a good game. Their running back's back. He went for over 200 on us last year. He's had some really good games this year already. Number 0, number 4 are also talented players that can get the ball in their hands and do something with it. Defensively, they fly around with the football. Again, this was a 13-7 game in the third quarter against Jackson.
Yeah.
And they got a punt blocked, and then they kicked off after the safety. Punt blocked for safety, kicked off after the safety, and Jackson ran it back for a touchdown. And then that game kind of spiraled. So this team is a team that's got a lot of pride, and Coach Lawson's done a good job. He's there, with Cottrell, and he's been there, and they'll come over here and we'll get their best, and they're going to get ours as well. We've had a good week of practice, and looking forward to Friday night.
Yeah, Coach, and you talked about winning Region 1. How special would that be, first time in program history, winning Region 1? You always set a list of goals at the end of the year, and I'm sure you set them again this year. Win Region 1 was probably at the top of that list.
Yeah, it is. We always say championships start in a region. We got in the playoffs first time a few years ago as the 4 seed, and we had to go 4 hours to Handley. And we realized quickly how tough that is. You're playing a 1 seed in Timbuktu, And so we said, hey, we got to find our way in the 1 or 2 seed, right? But obviously we're trying to win the region. Well, last year we found ourselves as a 2 seed, and a tough Handley team had to come to us, but it was a lot easier here than it was there. And now we have an opportunity to be a 1 seed, and that could get you more than last year we only had 1 home playoff game. Now you have an opportunity. You never know how it shakes out, but you're setting yourself up to play a lot of games here in November, which is big time. So this is a huge game. We say they're only going to get bigger as they go, and winning the region is an awesome goal to have. It gets us 7-0. Never been 7-0 before, and then a chance to continue to go unblemished. So I know the guys are excited. We've had a very focused week of practice. I think there's a confidence, not a cockiness, but a little bit of crap. We are number 1. You know what I mean? I'm saying they feel like they've earned that, and they have. The players have, but you gotta now you're at the top. You gotta keep that standard and maintain it.
Yeah, Coach. Last question here for me. We saw Noah and Braden and some of those guys play the other side of the ball on last Friday night. Can we kind of expect that again, to see them get kind of in the rotation, whether it's on D-line, corner, outside linebacker?
Yeah, I think so. You'll see those guys sprinkled in there again this week, and really throughout the rest of the year. There could be some games. Again, we want to win them all.
Yeah.
But there could be some games or some moments. Maddox and Grady were in there as well. There could be, and Nigel. There could be some games coming up, potentially Pensacola. UMS is going to be a big game, but it is non-region where we may not do it as much, right? Because we want to be smart. But I would expect to see those guys throughout the year, because the other thing it does for them is it builds some stamina, right? You can't just say, all right, I'll play 90 plays tonight, and you never do it any other time. So they're going to need to continue that. That way they're used to it when we get to the postseason.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice.
Well, thank you, Coach. I appreciate your time. Thank you, Swanee, my co-host. And you're watching Wild Cardinal Network here at the Rusty Coles Fieldhouse.